everyone. We are back with another Risk Insurance Dialogues interview. Today we have Michael Nadel. Today he is a partner and head of North American insurance practice at Simon-Kucher Partners. So thank you so much, Michael, for joining us today.
Yeah, Kate, thanks for having me.
Of course. So to kick things off, can you just give a brief introduction of who you are and what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. As you mentioned, I'm a partner at a firm called Simon-Kucher Partners. We're a strategy consultancy focused on growth-related topics. I run our insurance practice in North America, which means I get to cover the entire insurance ecosystem. So I work with carriers, agents, and brokers, helping them to develop strategies that'll enable their businesses to grow. And then I also work with all those companies that sell things into the carriers, agents, and brokers on more traditional things that my firm is very well known for, like monetization, pricing strategies, product design, and things like that. Prior to joining here, I spent time at CNA, running the innovation function within the strategy group there. And then prior to that, I was at Accenture, in their financial services practice.
Perfect. And with regards to the consulting aspect of the insurance industry, are there any specific values that you see consulting bringing to really make an impact on the insurance industry or any industry? And how have you really seen the demand for that area of these industries change over the past couple years?
Yeah, I think consulting in general, and this is sort of industry agnostic, provides a lot of value in that you bring folks like myself and my team who get to see a lot of the same problems that are being handled across a number of different, folks within any given industry. Whereas you and in my previous life, someone sitting inside of a carrier, they're facing a problem they may have never seen before. They're trying to figure out something that's not really a part of the day-to-day function of the business, requires some level of specialization and experience. And, that's where, firms like ours come in and we're able to solve problems that we have deep expertise in a way that, our clients might not be able to. I think I've seen, in the insurance industry in particular, there's a real move towards specialization, and maybe this is actually true of the broader consulting industry. With the advent of AI and these large language models that are really sort of changing, the way that people do things and increase efficiencies. Specialization really matters, and firms like ours, that have deep focus on certain topic areas, seem to be doing really well in this space where the idea of the generalist is maybe a little less valuable now that you've got even more superpowered tools at your hands, like some of these large language models provide.
And then what skills or expertise with regards to people looking to come into consulting or that area of, work, what are maybe some skills that you see being most in demand or, good things to have for people looking to move into those types of roles?
Yeah. I think for students coming out of college, there's one thing, and I really believe that starting your career in consulting is like a really great place to launch because you build a lot of really strong sort of foundational skill sets that are valuable whether you stay within consulting or choose to move into industry. Just really effective, working skills, the ability to make decisions, move quickly, and really, build some of that. And so, the traditional skills for a student coming out of college typically were, having some foundation in PowerPoint, Excel, analytics, foundational knowledge around business and business strategy, so marketing, operations, some of these things. Now, I know I've already brought up AI a few times, but it's interesting to see how the role of sort of like the junior analyst or the incoming consultant is being augmented now. And where it used to be that was where a lot of the legwork and sort of the task delivery used to get completed. Some of that is being automated, and so now I'm seeing new skill sets for incoming consultants that look a little bit different, coming in with either better data analytics skills through having Python or SQL experience, or now having experience actually more computer science oriented to be able to produce outputs a little bit more quickly. Now, the one thing that I think about consulting that sort of can't get automated away is it's a very much a relationship oriented business. And so to me, the sort of the most critical thing to be successful in this space is just the ability to engage with others, be confident in your delivery of what it is that you're speaking about or thinking about, and really, selling the vision and the ideas that you have in a way that others can, understand and buy into that vision. So, it's as much about having really good hard skills. I think the more important thing is actually having really strong soft skills.
Yeah, and would you say that those types of skills are things that can be learned, or do you think those are things that kind of you have it or you don't? Because I know sometimes people feel one way about it. Sometimes do you think that there's one or the
Yeah,
other?
so I absolutely believe it's easier to acquire hard skills than it is to acquire soft skills, but I don't think that it's an impossibility to learn to get better at soft skills. And in fact, I spend a lot of time coaching my teams around what that looks like. And consulting in general is really, a traditional apprenticeship type of model. You work with a team, you work with a group of folks, and it's really the responsibility of the people that are a step above you to sort of teach you what they had learned previously. And in my role as a partner, I spend a lot of time talking to my team about at the output of a meeting, debriefing on what went well, what didn't went well, and explaining my thought process of maybe why I did something, why I interjected at a certain point, why I paused the meeting, or what it was that I was doing, or why I delivered a message in a very specific way. And the reason for that is it goes back to that apprenticeship piece is you can't expect folks to get better just by giving them at bats. It's anything with sports and whatnot. Practicing is one thing, but practicing without any intent or knowledge isn't going to help you to get better. And so, in my role as a partner, I spend a lot of time coaching folks, and I very much have seen people that, innately were not maybe comfortable with public speaking or other things make significant improvements, but it definitely helps if it's a thing that comes natural to you, because it is definitely harder to pick up than maybe some of the more tangible hard skills like programming or Excel or PowerPoint.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense then. Yeah, it's one of those things that sometimes, people get scared away when, say they aren't good at public speaking right away or these things, and then they think that it'll
Yeah,
never happen. But it's reassuring that, it's something that can grow, and especially with good leadership, it can definitely build and continue to build throughout the course of a career. Um,
yeah,
so now, kind of from your experience with working with these different insurers and different businesses at that strategic level, how would you say qualities kind of distinguish people in those technical positions to then people that end up moving up into the higher level leadership roles?
yeah. So, in my experience, it's somewhat industry agnostic, right? Whether it's consulting or whether it's within industry. When you start your career, you're typically very sort of driven towards doing a specific thing. So, you're talking about technical skills, and like for a junior consultant, that might be building PowerPoint slides or building a financial model. And so the task is very tangible. You either did it or you didn't, right? And as you move up in your career, you move from this sort of tangible, very clear guidance given tasks into this world of ambiguity, and you're moving into doing things where the problem is handed to you and the solution is not, right? And the people that I found in my career to be successful are the people that are able to tackle that ambiguity and turn it into something concrete and understandable, and then portray that vision to others. Um, so it's not enough just to have the hard skill and to say, yes, I can do the task, I can do this one thing, but it's also, I can take something that, is undefined, it's squishy, it's, the problem's not totally clear. You can create the solution and then you can sell it to your peers. I mean, when you look at executives, whether it's an insurance carrier, an agent, or a broker, when you put them in front of a group of people, they're typically very, well spoken. Their ideas are very clear. They come across with that executive presence, that you somewhat expect. And the reason that you see that so consistently is because that's what drives, in my experience, the ability to get buy-in from others. And I think that's really the key thing of being an executive is you're constantly selling yourself and your ideas to others. And if you can't do that in a way that others can understand, that can follow, and that others want to follow you as a leader, you're going to have a hard time sort of making that jump out of being a doer into a leader, no matter how good you are at the specific skill, that you are hired to do.
Yeah. And would you say that that kind of, when you're dealing with that certain task that isn't well defined, would you say a lot of being able to complete that aspect of the role is about gaining trust, like from your peers? Because you had kind of touched on that briefly about how to kind of harness that attention when you're speaking to a crowd or whatnot. Would you say that trust is kind of a large part of that?
Absolutely. I mean, sales and not just like physically selling something for money. Like we all sell all day long. We don't really realize it. In communicating to others, you are selling something. You're selling the idea that you're communicating. You might be selling a physical product. And so when you stand up in a room full of others and you're presenting your idea, you are selling. And you can't sell anything to others if you don't have trust. Competence builds some level of trust in folks, and you can, highlight credentials, you can highlight experience, and that builds a level of trust. But trust comes from all these other different angles as well that exist. And in your day to day, working life, that might mean having lunch with somebody and building a bit of a personal relationship. They understand aspects about you. And so much of selling your idea happens outside of the room, and the room is just the last minute in which the final sort of motion of that sale is occurring. A lot of the things happen before the meeting, so maybe it's going around and talking to all the people that are a part of this and understanding what their objections are before you get into the room and you're throwing a bunch of wild cards. So, the people that I see, really effectively do this are, doing a lot of things before the actual moment where they're trying to, convince people of their idea that they're right. It's a lot of other things in building that trust, to walk in and get someone to accept the idea that you're trying to share with them.
Absolutely. And now, how would you say that these industry professionals, these people, whether they work for a carrier or, these different aspects of the insurance industry, how can those professionals really position themselves for that upward mobility in these companies to be able to take that next step later on in their career?
Yeah. So the number one thing that I talk to people when they show career aspiration, and I talk to them about is first is sort of working backwards from where you want to go. So let's say you want to be the chief underwriting officer of your company. I would go look at the person who's currently in that position and at peer companies and say, like, what are common about these folks? Like, what can I learn from what they have done that enabled them to get to that experience? Now, most people in that position, for instance, came up through some rank of having some underwriting position before then. So if you're sitting in like a strategy function and you want to be a chief underwriting officer one day, you probably need at some point to make a pivot into a role of an underwriter in order to get the ability to make your way to that path. And in some cases that means taking a step back to take a step forward. So like the first part of it is making, a plan that shows that you can sort of do the things necessary to get to where you want to go. The other part that I talk to folks a lot about this is really advocating for yourself. In corporate America, and this is probably more true actually of consulting. Like there is a bit of a career escalator and a career ladder, but in corporate America, that ladder sort of hits a ceiling at some point because there's only so many roles that exist in senior ranks. You only have so many chief titles or VP or SVP roles that exist. From analyst to, let's call it, director within a large insurance carrier, there's much more career opportunity that's present. So doing a good job might be enough to get you to move up the initial ranks. But when you're trying to break into that VP, SVP, AVP, EVP, level type of role, it's not just going to happen for you if you don't make your interests known to others. So often that means talking to your direct manager and saying, out of this performance period at the beginning, I really want this to happen at the end of this period. What do you think I need to accomplish X, Y, and Z goals? And setting very clear goals, not only with your boss, but maybe the other people that would be involved in this decision making process. The more that you advocate for yourself and make it known what you want, you're going to get the feedback from the other side of the table whether or not they're ever going to actually put you into that type of position. And then the last thing that I'll say is, unfortunately, at senior levels of jobs, like if you want to keep moving up, often that might mean you have to actually move jobs or companies to make that happen again, because upward mobility is limited when there's only a handful of roles that exist, and it might just be a wrong time, wrong place type of thing in order to make that next jump, and that next jump might be somewhere else. But again, if you don't talk to the people that make those decisions or can help you and advocate for yourself, you'll never know whether or not you're even in contention or it's a possibility for you.
Yeah, a lot of it, I guess, like you said, is you have to speak up for yourself because, at the end of the day, it's your career, and if you're not going to speak up for yourself, no one else is going to volunteer to
Yeah,
do it for you. So,
yeah, absolutely.
and now to kind of wrap us up, what is a piece of advice that you would give to someone starting out in their professional career, whether it be consulting or a similar role like consulting?
Yeah. So the first one is that sort of plan backwards. Yeah, I just I just described that, so I won't go into detail on that again. But the other thing that has been hugely impactful in my career is having mentors along the way. So at every stop of my career journey, I've had a mentor, someone who I've really attached myself to and has helped me to grow in my career. I've been very sort of aspirational in my career, and I think people have acknowledged that. And um, I found the opportunity to return the same favor to others. And having a mentor is good for a number of different reasons. One, it makes you a better version of yourself. You can find things in other people that maybe, you're not good at, and you can learn from others. So going back to that conversation around public speaking, maybe you really want to get better at the soft skills, you're great at hard skills. You find a mentor who's really good at public speaking and is willing to sort of invest in you and teach you how to talk and sell your ideas to others, and can help round out those skills. And it's not like an exchange of goods. Like my mentors from my other companies, I still stay in touch with, and it's a two-way street. So now, I'm looking for ways that I can help them and to return the favors of things that they've done for me. When I first, sort of moved out of banking and wealth management and started focusing on the insurance industry, I had someone who sort of acknowledged that I had the right foundational set of skills and was willing to invest in to teach me the ropes of the insurance industry. And again, years later, I'm turning around to look to figure out how to return those favors. You want someone who's going to help and take interest in your career as much as you are and help you along the way. But I think the expectation that it's like this one-way street and they're just going to do it for you, which some people look at mentorship as, is not the right way. It's a dually beneficial relationship in which two people have to really invest in this. And if you find the right mentors, it can really accelerate your career and do, wonders.
Definitely. Yeah, mentorship is such a key part of so many careers. I know I have so many amazing mentors too that definitely provide that, you know, outlet for you to ask those questions, but for them to also, if they have something that happened to them that they want to share with you and how it helped guide them, it's such a great resource on both ends, like you said.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today. This was a great conversation, so I appreciate it.
Yeah, Katie, thanks so much for having me. It was a great conversation with you as well.